Good evening and welcome to Joy News Prime live from our studio here in Kokomlemle, Accra. We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144, live around the world on myjoyonline.com. Coming up, if you want us to go home and die, just tell us. That is the cry of the individual pension bondholders as they intensify their call for a total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program.
If that is what the government wants us to go through and die, a clear statement should be made that regardless of what we are doing, we will do it. And if we want to die, die.
More as the group continue with their day 2 of it, picketing at the Ministry of Finance. Now, following weeks of agitations over government's domestic debt exchange program, Speaker of Parliament, Direct Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to put a program before Parliament and brief MPs on same. Now we have details of the minority in the House insisting the arrangement must be put before the House and the clash with the Deputy Finance Minister. Now in this bulletin also, President Akufo-Addo makes seeming changes to his team of ministers while ignoring loud calls for the downsizing of his appointees while the country restructures its debt in the current economic conditions. Now, the MP for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, says it may be difficult for Katie Hammond and Stephen Amoa to work together at the Trades Ministry.
Two characters. I wonder how they can work together. My uncle, Honorable Katie Hammond, and my very good friend, Honorable Sticker. They are two very complex individuals.
Now, if you want us to go home and die, just tell us. That is the cry of the over 500 individual pension bondholders as they intensified their calls for a total exemption from the domestic debt exchange program. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, in his update on the economy last night, re-emphasized government's offer of a 15% coupon rate at a 5 years maturity period to individual pension bondholders, urging the bondholders to sign on to the deal, but the group has rejected the offer. They resumed day 2 of picketing at the Ministry of Finance to press home their demand for a total exemption. My colleague James Kwesi Aveji was there and came through with this report. The group set a solemn tone for the day 2 of their picketing with chant of various patriotic songs to drum home their demand. Total exemption, total exemption. When one of them took to the microphone, he described how their members are dying not from the barrel of the gun, but from an investment gone bad, an investment in which their trusted partner, government, has failed to meet its end of the bargain.
We are here and we are veterans. Why are some of us, even as we speak, because of desperation, fear, having strokes and some dying? Blood is still being shed. I want us to remind ourselves of what happened 75 years ago and remind ourselves of what is happening now. We are still pleading with His Excellency, and now with the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, to consider the total exempt.
Another pensioner said they are where they are today because government has allegedly smuggled a clause into the second debt exchange amendment bill, which has disarmed them from having an equal say on the terms of exchange program.
There is a clause that states categorically that the Republic of Ghana, of course, through the Ministry of Finance, reserve the right to amend the coupon, to extend the maturity date. And you are saying that you can change the coupon at your own discretion without resorting to me. You can extend the date, the maturity date, without resorting to me. You can change all the commercial terms. And this you would not want it to come to the public.
As they retire home from the second day of fighting for their money to no avail, they had one more message for government.
You are on stroke.
The drugs have been given to you that every day, take this, take that. You say, I don't have money, so I'm going to take it every week. You will die. Any disease that you have, that they have prescribed drug for, if you don't get the sufficient money to buy that drug, you will die. And if that is what the government wants us to go through and die, a clear statement should be made that regardless of what you are doing, we will do it. And if you want to die, die.
The group returns Wednesday to continue picketing and fighting for their money. James Kwesiavaji's report read to you. Now, Speaker of Parliament Alwyn Bagbin has directed Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to put the details of the domestic debt exchange program before the House for consideration and brief MPs on the matter. This follows weeks of agitations by individual bondholders and pensioners who are all up in arms against the policy and urging the government to exempt them. We'll hear from them, the Speaker, shortly. First, listen to MP for North Tong Samuel Kojo, Blackwell, and MP for Boko Central Mahama Yariga, who raised the matter on the floor, insisting Parliament must approve of the details of the exchange program before implementation.
Which is the ongoing domestic debt exchange program that the government is pursuing. During the break, I joined the majority leader, the current minority leader, who was then ranking member of the Finance Committee, to receive a petition from the Association of Individual Bondholders. I am quite disappointed that the business arranged for this week does not feature the Finance Minister. The Finance Minister will have to appear before this House. And right Honourable Speaker, I appeal to you respectfully to instruct that the Minister for Finance appears before us so that we can have a full briefing, we can debate this matter.
The duty of the Finance Minister is not simply to engage this House. So, Speaker, Article 181, Clause 3 of our Constitution is clear that this is borrowing on behalf of the state. And sections 55 and 56 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 is also very clear that this is borrowing on behalf of the state. The terms and conditions of the borrowing ordinarily must be laid before this House and must be approved by a resolution of this House. And the minister has gone ahead to go and define his own terms and conditions of borrowing, and is out there negotiating with the bondholders terms and conditions that have not been approved by this House.
Minister Abenao Seasa responded to the concerns of the MPs and insisted that the broad policy underpinning the exchange program has been approved by the House in the 2023 budget, but explained that the House had not been briefed because of its recess.
In the budget of 2023, we mentioned, this House approved that policy, that we were going to come up with a domestic debt exchange. And Mr. Speaker, based on the budget that was approved, Parliament gave us permission to spend compensation to a certain tune. And it's the same with our borrowings to a certain tune. And then capital expenditure as well as goods and services. And for my friend on the other side to say that we are now going to borrow, these are funds that were approved for us to utilize previously. And government is saying, I'm engaging with you to make sure that due to the conditions in which I find myself now, I will not be able to discharge what initially I had agreed with you. And Mr. Speaker, let me put it on record that the pension funds are not part of this exercise that we are doing. Just to correct my friend on the other side, pension funds are not part of the exercise that we are engaging now. Mr. Speaker, they are not part of it. All these various bondholders, we have been able to engage them. We did it with the banks, we did it with the insurance companies, and I know that last week when we met the business committee of the House, the leadership of the House, we mentioned that once Parliament comes through, we will come and brief the House on how far and the steps that we have taken to get to where we are. So, Mr. Speaker, Parliament was on recess. Parliament went on the 23rd. Parliament has just resumed. And we mentioned it last week when we met the House, the leadership, that this is what we intend to do, to come and brief the House. So I think my brothers on the other side are jumping the gun. A little patience. And let's not muddy the waters out there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's not muddy the waters out there. We have done the engagement. Yes, it is true that we haven't been able to engage Parliament, but Mr. Speaker, we sounded the call to Parliament.
Now, despite this explanation, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin directed Minister for Finance Ken Ofori-Atta to cause to be laid the details of the program before the House and make a presentation on same to members of Parliament.
Honourable members, my understanding is that both sides agree that the minister be scheduled to come and brief the House, policy statements, and some details about the debt arrangements. Parliament is ever prepared to assist government to get out of this quagmire. And so what I can say now is that, like the church says, Roma locuta, causa finita est. Parliament has spoken, and that is the end of the case. The minister be scheduled by the business committee as early as possible, because this is an urgent matter. If the pensioners are picketing at the ministry, we need to do this as quickly as possible. I can say that by Tuesday next week. Tuesday next week. This week is quite packed, and so Tuesday next week will be appropriate. Even though we have some business to on Tuesday, I insist that it should be on Tuesday. We'll have to find time for the minister, because this is a very urgent matter, particularly dealing with elderly people. We have to find time for the minister to give us a brief.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has responded to calls for him to reshuffle his government with what many have described as a replacement for ministers who have resigned rather than a reshuffle. Now, in a letter to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, President Akufo-Addo replaced Alan Tremantin, who resigned as Trade and Industry Minister, with Adansi Asukwa Member of Parliament, Katie Hammond. He has also promoted a Deputy Minister of Energy, Mohammed Amin Adam, to the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. Now, head of political desk here at Joy News, Evans Mensah, joins me in the studio to look at this reshuffle in the face of increasing calls for government to reduce its size. Evans, grateful that you could join us.
Thank you.
What could account for, such nominations in the face of these hard economic times that everybody says cut down the size of government?
I mean, I'm literally just coming off an interview with the minority leader, the majority leader in Parliament, Chairman Sabonsu, and I asked him the same question, and explained that the president was eager to reshuffle the pack because he wanted fresh ideas, fresh faces in his cabinet, and with 2 years to go. But the reality is that a lot of what has happened was forced upon him, because you have the trade minister who had left to go and campaign and the agriculture minister who had left. Those are the two substantive changes. And then you actually also have the
Minister of State at the
Finance Minister, who also was allegedly caught and engaged in corrupt practices that is still being investigated. He hasn't been proven guilty, so it's still an allegation. But he had resigned on the back of that. So those three major positions were all forced on the president, and so he hadn't necessarily to do it. And once you move the people, you would have to replace them, right? So he's moved, for example, the Deputy Energy Minister from Deputy Energy Minister portfolio to go and occupy the place of the
Minister of State
the Minister of
at the
State.
Finance
So that is a fundamental basis for it. I mean, Chief Minister Bonsu explained that's what the president's goal was. Clearly, it wasn't a case of the president wanting to cut down the size of government. That wasn't in his thinking at all. If it was, Chief Minister Bonsu would have told me that. In fact, I pressed him on the fact that would government cut down the size of government, its size with the current economic conditions, and then he was clear the government can do more, but not in the area of cutting down, because he refers to the point that we used to be 100 and over, and it's been brought into the upper 80s, and so it believes that that's something that's already happened. And so it's clear from speaking to the, he's a cabinet minister, and he would have known that these changes were coming. The thinking wasn't to reduce the size of government.
Wow.
I mean, and so this is a maintenance of the number, really, because you're replacing people, moving people around, etc. It's a maintenance of the number. It's not a reduction. It's just keeping it the same.
But isn't that a spite in the face of people who are saying that, okay, you want us to sacrifice, you to sacrifice? Can they then say, you are just looking at us in the face and telling us, go off, I won't listen?
It is a missed opportunity. Because when we had the trade minister leaving to campaign, agri minister leaving to campaign, and you also had the minister of state at the finance ministry also leaving on the back of the expose, that was an opportunity. If you needed an excuse to reshuffle in a way that reduces the size of government, just to signal to Ghanaians, the bulk of which are bearing the brunt of the current economic crisis, signal to them that, yes, I've listened and I'm cutting down. This is clearly a missed opportunity because he hasn't done that. But those who are close to him they aren't surprised that this is what has happened. The president believes very deeply in loyalty, but also believes, based on his own experiences, when he was a minister under Kufuor, both as Attorney General and also as a Foreign Affairs Minister, that when you are reshuffled, either reshuffled from your ministry to somewhere else or taken out of government, that leaves major cracks. You sort of completely, destroy a relationship. People become bitter forever. And those who are close to him have pointed to that experience, which is really what has influenced his unprecedented maintenance of the size of government for 2 terms almost, right? It's never happened in our history. But that is that experience that is informing this. And I was recently reading a book called The Pursuit of Jubilee, and it talks about how we discovered oil, George Owusu. And he talks about the people in Kufuor's government who were so bitter that they had been reshuffled out of government, that they were going to the NDC whilst Kufuor was in power. I mean, just before the changeover, they had gone to the NDC when Mills just won, and told Mills and his government that oil blocks had been procured in the name of former President Kufuor.
Okay.
Right? And that then fueled the relentless onslaught that we saw from, he writes that in his book. So that tells you, and it's what I read that, okay, that's why I've heard people tell me that the reason why the president hasn't reduced the size and he's not moving anybody out is because of his own experience, because people just get bitter. And maybe he doesn't want that. But where the economy is right now, people should watch PMX, push the James Abongso on the point of, has the government done enough? And he says, well, I believe the government can do more. Right? He says he can't speak for the government because he's the president and the finance minister who are primarily in charge, but he believes that he personally can do more. Okay. So he says he's personally cut down on the fuel coupons. So that is an admission that the government can do more, and this is a massive missed opportunity.
Now, 2 interesting portfolios: Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Minister of State at the Local Government and Decentralization Ministry. What are the relevance
of the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry?
And then at local government?
That is a big head scratcher. I mean, big head scratcher because you have a Ministry of Finance with 2 deputies already and a substantive. Yes, we are in an economic crisis, but this is an economic crisis of your own making, right? You do not solve the crisis by increasing your size, right? You solve the crisis by reducing your size. That's basic 101 economics. Any home where you're facing a domestic economic crisis, you reduce your size, you reduce expenditure. So you don't solve the finance ministry's problems presumably they are directly in charge of fixing the problem, by giving them more people, right? It's by getting a mean, lean team, efficient to do the job, right? And so that is a missed opportunity again, to then take there another minister. In effect, you have 4 ministers at a ministry that has superintended over the most catastrophic economic management of our time. With 2 years to go, it doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well. I mean, the best is to leave the 3 to do the job because they're doing a job, right? That is not to say that, in commenting now on the qualities of the people who have been appointed, that's not to say that Amin Adam is not qualified. Amin Adam is qualified. Solid. This is very, very solid, qualified material. As a deputy energy minister, he's shown it. And so it's an elevation for him. So I'm glad that he's going there. But if he was going there, you're taking somebody out, I would have understood it. Because he's far more qualified there than some of the people who are already there, right? So that would have been a great one. But you move somebody in there, might take others out, then you reduce your numbers. And then you talk about the
local government. Briefly.
I mean, you talk about Obi Amwa. Again, Obi Amwa is
a deputy in that ministry,
you know, who has been elevated. I'm not so concerned there because his portfolio has just been changed. He remained at the same place, but he's been elevated. I mean, so he'll be paid more. Well, that's true. I mean, in a time like this, kids will be right? So even if it's 1 cedi more, it's 1 cedi more that you could have saved for something else. So there you have a point. I mean, but his declaration has been changed. But broadly, this really will signal to a lot of the bondholders who had met the finance minister and said, you can cut as much as 80 billion. And they were hoping that on the day when the bond exchange, the debt, the money that is closing, the president would have made this announcement and said
reduction,
and that would have encouraged a lot of people to join because they would have felt hesitation has been, I haven't seen you sacrifice enough, so why do you want me to put me in my money? So this is a big missed opportunity.
Interesting. Grateful that you could do this for us. Now, Majority Leader House Chairman Sabonsu says allegations that former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu engaged in underhand dealings and sold out his caucus and party during his time as Minority Leader are unfounded. The Majority Leader praised the former leader for what he says was his stellar leadership during his period as leader of the NDC group in the House for 6 years. He also welcomed the new leadership led by Dr. Kaysel Atuforsen and said he hopes they engage in constructive criticism.
Occasionally in our working relationship, there were hiccups. But that is what happens in the established parliaments in all established democracies. The Honorable Haruna Iddrisu have become part of me for the past 6 years that we worked together. On occasions, there were allegations of a sellout. Speaker, let me use this occasion to state emphatically and unambiguously that no such thing ever happened. We developed a very harmonious working relationship, and people then read meanings into them. The business of the minority leader to assist the majority leader in facilitating government work program. And if a person does that, that should not be perceived as selling out to the majority. The Speaker, I wish all the former leaders whose names I've mentioned, Haruna Iddrisu, James Abeje Kluche, and the Honorable Muntaka Mubarak Mohammed, very well wherever they find themselves. Let me take this opportunity to also welcome the new leadership of the minority to their new position. I trust that as leadership, we can work together to build parliament.
Now, for his part, new Minority Leader Dr. Atuforsen in his welcome address pledged that he will not be needlessly obstructionist, but will always hold government's feet to the fire.
To my colleagues on the minority side, we pledge to offer a fair and unbiased, balanced, consultative, and principled leadership in our journey to broaden the frontiers of parliamentary oversight and to hold the Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia government to account in a manner that helps deliver public goods. Mr. Speaker, to my colleagues on the majority side, I wish to convey from this side of the House that even as we remain firm, resolute, and principled in our journey to discharge our oversight duties as a caucus, we shall not be needlessly obstructionist, in as much as what is under consideration is in the interest of the people of Ghana, and the right process and requirements have been adhered to. Again, Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, our minister responsible for finance informed the nation that Ghana needs an IMF bailout by March 2023, else our economy will crash. It is interesting to note that this is the same finance minister who recently said that Ghana, I can tell you, in quote, that I can tell you, we are not going back to IMF. Whatever we do, we are not going back. The consequences are there. We are a proud nation. We have the resources. We have the capacity. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We are not the people of short sight, and we leave it. Mr. Speaker, the people of Ghana looks up to us to mount a barrier between them and the worsening standards of governance, especially because of the hung nature of this parliament. Mr. Speaker, this demands the highest level of scrutiny of government policies and activities to prevent the infliction of more damage and pain on an already weary and overburdened populace.
Just watching Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, MP for Tamale Central and member of the Trade Committee, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, says the two personalities nominated to the Trade Ministry may struggle to work together. President Akufo-Addo has nominated Katie Hammond as Substantive Minister for Trade following the resignation of Alan Shramanting and MP for Nshaya, so Stephen Amwa, as Deputy Minister Designate. Now, reacting to the nomination, Murtala Mohammed explained he had no qualms about the competence of the two.
Interesting two characters. I wonder how they can work together. My uncle, Honorable Katie Hammond, I describe him as a no-nonsense man, and my very good friend, Honorable Stika, as a Deputy Minister for Trade. To be very honest, they are two very complex individuals. I have dealt with all of them. I just hope that they are able to work together, because that ministry is one of the most important ministries of this country. The idea of reducing our dependency on other, foreign countries, can be realized if the ministry is given the independence to do a lot. We do know what happens under Mr. Alan Chilmantin. He's now trying to insulate himself from the mess. Mind you, he was named as one of the excellent ministers. In fact, not even one of the members of the economic management team. So this attempt of Mr. Alan Chilmantin and his team to insulate him from the mess that is created wouldn't wash. They can use all the perfumes in Arabia to wash Mr. Alan Chilmantin. He will still be smelling the economic mess that he is an active participant in creating for the people of this country. So to have those individuals in that ministry, wow, that would be interesting. I don't doubt the capability of Honorable Katie Hammond. Frankly speaking, I think that his experience, he has been a minister of state before, but I don't think that he has been a minister in the area that has to do with trade and industries, in energy. So I don't know how he's going to handle that ministry. But once the technical people are given the opportunity to do what is expected of them, I think that he would be able to do something. You remember when they mentioned Sticker, we're all happy. And frankly speaking, we're not trying to be funny. We're genuinely happy for him. The guy has really suffered for the NPP and particularly for Mr. Nanado, President Nanado. I remember when I went to Tech to do my first master's, he was then. We used to have a lot of debate over NDC NPP. That was in 2006. NDC NPP at the time. He has wept, on national television for us. Whether it was crocodile tears or not, I can't tell.
Now, imagine being confronted with the challenge of dilapidated school structures and inadequate furniture, forcing you to quickly put up makeshift structures constructed with firewood, straw, and used old roofing sheet for use by the pupils to enable you have ample time to complete a permanent structure for them. One of the makeshift structures depended on completely got gutted by fire, leaving the people stranded and loitering about. That is the situation the Bamahu MA Junior High School in the Wa municipality of the Upper West region is grappling with and are appealing for help. Choi News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam report from Wa.
The increasing rate of pupils enrollment, coupled with dilapidated structures which could pass for their traps, has forced management committee of the Bamahu MA Junior High School to go in for these mixed structures. The Bamahu MA Junior High School has a total population of 321 pupils. 2/3 of these pupils are in Junior High School 2 and 3 and are comfortable occupying these two classrooms. Their junior colleagues, unfortunately on their part, has whole classes under these mixed structures. They have been constructed using firewood, straws, and used jaded roofing sheets. In a class of 74 pupils, which has been equally divided, the forged ones are at this mixed structure. But even under this structure, it isn't the best. The sun is scorchy and is arsenic. Apart from the inhumane and unconducive learning environment they have been subjected to, there is also the fear of the mixed structures housing pythons and other dangerous insects. There are uncountable times that pythons fell from the roof of their mixed structures, disrupting curricular activities. Yusuf Abdul Rahim is the headmaster of Bamahu MA Junior High School.
Here we have Form 1A and there we have Form 1B. And in fact, whenever it threatens to rain, it means we just have to close classes. Then sometimes we are in our classes, we are being visited by reptiles. Should I say fortunately or unfortunately on my part, I have been a witness to those occasions.
The Parent-Teacher Association, PTA, concerned about the plight of the pupils, mobilized and started the construction of these two classrooms, which has gotten to the roof level. The 2-unit classroom project has some support from the World Central Member of Parliament, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpu.
To be used to do the roofing, there are 15 packets of roofing sheets meant for the roofing of these two classrooms. It's important for us because we know that it will enable learning experience to go on as we expect.
The mixed structure for Junior High School 1B was gutted by fire, crumbled like sand, and straws turned into ashes.
So at the moment, what we are trying to do is to how we can fix it temporarily for classes to start, so that we looked forward to see how we can solve it permanently. If we look at the school, there are no structures. In fact, the people are more than the structures. All these things you are seeing, there are classes. So we are managing with this for the meantime, hoping that the assembly will come to our aid.
The 37 pupils lost everything, including their furniture. They have no classroom and only loiter about while their colleagues are seriously studying.
As our class got burnt and then the furnitures are also burnt.
One municipal chief executive, Isaac Utayr Mumin, who was at the school to assess the situation, expressed shock and promised a temporary fix of the situation.
Just this morning I had information that a makeshift classroom is burnt. So we are here to see what is actually the situation on the ground. And true to it, the furniture is gone and the makeshift is also gone. So right now we're going to work out to get them a number of dual decks at least to start learning, whilst we look at a permanent solution for the school.
Reporting for Kojo News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, 28 of the 47 students of Ejuraman Anglican Senior High School have been discharged from the Ejura Government Hospital after their school's dining hall collapsed on them. The structure caved in after a downpour in the area Monday evening. The only severe case recorded is a fracture on the leg of a female student. Nanaya Ojima followed up on the accident and filed this report.
Cases recorded were minor injuries, dominated by bruises and skeletal pain. Affected persons have since been stabilized, with the one severe case of a fracture referred to another facility. Medical Superintendent of Ejura Government Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Amwa Abuaje, says more patients will be discharged after a review of their x-rays.
We've stabilized all of them. They've been on analgesia and other medications to help allay their pain. So we've been able to discharge 28 of them this morning. We've taken x-rays for almost all of them, hoping that we'll review the x-rays this afternoon and also further discharge the rest that are there. We may have to refer one case, and that's the case of the right closed tibia and fibula fracture.
The dining hall caved in when students were having their supper on Monday. The rubble of the 20-year-old building is gathered at one side of the hall. The roofing of a new classroom block was also affected. The cooked rice the students were supposed to have for supper scattered all over the concrete floor. At the time of Love News visit on Tuesday, students were out for lunch. The meal was served under trees on the dining tables as the students stand to take the meals. Director General of the National Disaster Management Organization, Eric Nanajiman Prempe, says there are efforts to find both temporary and permanent solutions to the challenge.
We are going to put our heads together with the Assembly and see how temporarily we can help the school to go on with their normal activities of cooking for the kids, because they still have to be in school. And then together we will also talk to the Ministry of Education and get funds to see how in the long term they can get some dormitory, because what was here was not the best. Government is also ready to support the kids and the parents as far as the hospital bills are concerned. I'm discussing with the MC, and government will do that so that the parents will not come in to do that. So we want to assure parents whose kids are here that they are in safe hands.
Calm has returned to the school. Students are going about their normal activities, though some of them still harbor some fears. Behind me are staff of the school's kitchen. Though the shelter under which they cook is no more, they are doing their best to get some nutritious meals for these students. Municipal Chief Executive Dr. Kingsley Osei says efforts are being made to offer psychological support for the students.
Now they have been asked to concentrate on their studies because their brothers and sisters who were involved in one way or the other with various degrees of injuries are doing very well. And that also we ask them that if should their parents call that they are coming down, they should stop them because they are in safe hands. And I talked with the staff too that they should continue to do the teaching alongside advising them, counseling the students that they should not fear because everything is under control.
The hope is that very soon the problem will be solved. A new kitchen and also a dining hall will be built for the school. For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
An Italian-based Ghanaian woman on holiday is alleged to have been murdered by a neighbor at Sapebwa Krom in Ashanti region on Monday. The deceased, known only as Kose, was allegedly stabbed by her 20-year-old neighbor, Befi, who has often visited the deceased. Eyewitnesses say they saw the suspect jump out of a window in the victim's apartment to flee the scene after allegedly committing the crime. Nana Ojima visited the scene and came through with this report.
At the time of Love News visit, the suspect in handcuffs has been brought to his house, which sits directly opposite that of the deceased. The police led him into the residence as part of investigations. Some visibly angry residents attempted pouncing on the suspect. A neighbor speaks of the relationship between the suspect and deceased. She clothes and feeds the suspect anytime she is in the country. He comes here always. He is like a grandson to her. The deceased is a very good friend of the suspect's grandmother. The deceased, Marcos, in her late 50s, lived in an apartment on the second floor of a two-story building. It is believed the suspect went through a window that leads to the apartment of the deceased to gain access to her. Residents say the suspect attempted breaking into the apartment weeks back, but the issues were resolved. An eyewitness says he was drawn to the scene after hearing noise that suggested a tussle in the apartment. The alarmed residents broke into the room to find the woman in a pool of blood.
Struggle. My friend first, no response.
I heard some people struggling in her room from my hall. I called her, but she didn't answer. When I came to her door, I knocked twice and she didn't respond. I had to call other tenants to help me break into the room. We could still hear them struggle. One tenant peeped through the window and saw blood. So we had to intensify efforts to break into the room. We entered to find a pool of blood, but the body wasn't there. We later found the body hidden in the bathroom.
For the meantime, this area and about share anymore. You try quite more no be no. Tiasaba now she's a body need a bathroom.
The suspect, Befi, was subsequently arrested by some residents who tracked him from the scene after pulling a gun to aid his escape. Police continue to investigate the matter. For Joy News, Nanaya Ochima, Kumasi.
There's still Joy News Prime. We'll take a break. We'll return with Showbiz. Stay with us. All right, so let's talk entertainment now, Showbiz. And Becky Bex is here. Becky, hi.
Hello to you, Breeze. How you doing?
Well. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. So ahead of her experience, which is the Awake experience with Diana Hamilton, on the 19th of this month and also on the 26th of this month, which is happening in Kumasi, Diana visited her alma mater, which is Morning Star School, and received a very beautiful reception from the whole school. She got the chance to address a session of the pupils, and she spoke about the need to be kind to each other. Also donated some items, including laptops. Why do you stop? So for more of that, you can join Diana and the rest of the team on the 19th of this month at the Perez Dome, also on the 26th of obviously this month at the Church of Pentecost in Kumasi. So let's move away from...
The thing is that you won't be disappointed. Diana gives you that performance that makes you feel that look, it's worth your time. Even after when it's uploaded on YouTube, it's like my daily companion. I listen to a lot of her performances.
You're in the spirit. You're in the spirit.
Her songs are really... They get you close to the throne, and everyone should be listening to her. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll go there. I mean,
I'll be there. Well, you will. I will be there. So everybody should be there.
Sure.
But speaking of impacting children, Majid has been speaking on Showbiz A to Z. He's been talking about how there's a need for us to nurture children from the starts, like family, educate the children from the starts, because they are the future. And of course, he spoke on Showbiz A to Z.
The house is in Nima. Nima is a bad community. House, Nima, a bad community. You have no such thing as a bad community. People make up communities. It's the people that are bad, not the community. Where these people coming from? Families. Now, if your family is corrupt, Francis' family is corrupt, Jay's family is corrupt, you have a corrupt community. If the community is corrupt, because the homes put together make up the community. Communities put together make up the nation. The nation, The nations put together make up the continent. The continents put together make up the world.
The world put together.
So the very fabric, the smallest fabric that holds the entire world together is our individual families. So if you want to correct the family, you want to correct the community, you have to correct the family. You understand? So we have to learn to break that thing, make them and correct the family. all the money the government is using to build jails and build houses and build prisons and build all these things, we have to come up with conferences, find a way to structure the homes and put the homes together. Let men understand their duty as a father. Let a father know his duty. Let the mother know her duty as a mother.
Well, Majid, Michelle, right there. So, Brace, let's move away from
that.
From Majid. Let's talk about.
I was only worried about you know, his voice.
His voice.
But once he said that he doesn't know what is wrong with his voice.
Yeah.
He says he's checked at Kolewen or 37, but he cannot tell what's wrong.
But I think it's better. I don't know. Well, I mean, for me, I think
it's better this way.
Yeah, it's much better.
Really?
Than the last time I listened.
It's not audible, really.
To him.
No.
Well, if you pay attention,
you think that it's not better than
the last time I listened to him. Yeah. So DJ Khalid, do you know DJ Khalid? We're the best. DJ Khalid. You don't know we're the best. DJ Khalid.
But that's Khalid.
Yeah, but
the guy says what? No, drop it again. Let me hear what he said.
Wait, no. You don't want me to tell you what the... Well, I mean, forget about that video. I'm talking about DJ Khalid himself.
Okay.
He's been talking about Thames. He says that he will love so much to, you know, collaborate with Nigerian Thames.
Oh.
If you're in the entertainment industry, you will understand what this means to Thames and you know, everybody in music. Can you imagine the magnitude of this endorsement?
Yeah. But the thing is, if Blacko had gone, I'm sure he would have.
Stonebwoy was there.
No. But you know this guy and Blacko. You saw him on
he did.
You know, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good for Thames, it's good for Nigeria.
Good for Nigeria.
You know,
good for Ghana as
exactly.
well.
If Blacko had been there, Charlie, but anytime he says...
Why are you pushing Blacko there? Relax. Let's Thames take H9 or something.
Thames, I'm not taking it.
Yeah, but of course, Blacko, this is what we want for the industry. We're hoping, we're praying, and we have a dream that Ghana will be on that map one day.
Okay. And that's how we wrap it up. You know, God did. Thank you for being part of us tonight. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo.
We are so glad that you could join us. Please join us same time tomorrow.